Hey guys, what's up? I'm Captain Turbo, and welcome to another episode of the Captain's Log. We're doing episode 3 today, and yes, for the record, I have decided to stick with that name. It just seems to work. I can't put it another way. Kind of stupid, I know, but oh well, we're sticking with it. So, Captain's Log episode 3, and today I'm going to be giving you my thoughts and opinions, as you can see in the title, on Final Fantasy VII. Now, this is a little different than it was with things like Super Metroid, Link to the Past, and all that I did in the last two episodes. Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy VII, I did not play for the first time until about, I want to say, April of 2013. So just a little over a year ago. In fact, maybe just a year ago. Actually, I can't remember the exact date. But yeah, I didn't play a single Final Fantasy game until 2008. I knew of the franchise, I knew it existed, but until I got on the internet in like mid 2006, I didn't realize just how big Final Fantasy was. So, and you see these top 10 lists, the greatest moments of Final Fantasy, the best characters, the best bosses, and all that, and there was just loads and loads of these videos online even when YouTube was in its, early year. I think 2006 was actually the year YouTube came about, but I saw all these Final Fantasy lists, and Final Fantasy VII seemed to be the most popular, and at least the most well known anyway. Obviously, there's a couple of reasons for that. If one scene in particular gets brought up a lot, but it made me intrigued about what Final Fantasy VII had to offer. Fast forward about 7 years, and I really wanted to finally play the game. I'd seen one LP of it, and that was by Necroscope86. I watched his entire LP of Final Fantasy VII, but that was back in 2012, maybe 2011, I think. But I really wanted to experience FF7 for myself. I wanted to see if this historical game, for lack of a better word, was any good, if it still stood up to this day. And it really wanted to play it, and I didn't want to play it through an emulator. I actually wanted to experience this game legitimately. I do have access to a PS1 emulator. I gonna plan to use it at some point in the future for PlayStation Let's Plays, because I don't actually own any PlayStation games anymore, apart from ones I'm about to mention. So I went on eBay. I actually got a PSP. Actually, that's a lie. I got a PSP Go, which, if you don't know, doesn't play physical games. You can only play downloaded games. It's a bit of a pain, but the console cost me like £45, I think. So I got it for a decent price, and then I ended up getting one of those £25 PlayStation token things. That you can use at the PlayStation on the PlayStation Store. And I downloaded Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VII, 8 and 9 as well. As of this moment, I'm about, I'd say, three-quarters of the way through Final Fantasy 8, and I've not yet tried out... I've not actually done more than just simply try out Final Fantasy 9. But, by, I think it was, as I said, it's April of last year, I finally got to play Final Fantasy 7. And I'm going to have a lot to say about this. So this is probably going to be quite a lengthy episode. Alright, first things first. I'm going to get out the way. The graphics were god-awful to look at. By that I mean mostly the character designs. I could not believe what I was looking at here, especially when you consider that the very next Final Fantasy game had much better looking graphics. The backgrounds I had no problems with. I do admit that at times I did struggle to... I remember I was actually stuck on the scene where Cloud and Erisa were in on the rooftops, because Cloud just wouldn't go anywhere. It was hard to see where I'm supposed to go with the style of graphics that the game had. But to be perfectly honest, graphics aside, I really, really enjoyed the game. I booted it up, and I knew a little of what to expect. Like I said, about 2 years beforehand, I'd watched an LP, so I remembered bits and pieces here and there. And within 20 minutes, no, make it an hour. Within an hour, I knew I had struck gold with this game. You know, it had the active battle system, which I'm not a fan of. I've always said I prefer turn-based RPGs. Well, I suppose it is still technically turn-based, but I prefer you go and then I go and then you go and then I go. I don't like having to think on my feet too much. But as I said, booted up the game. I was hooked within an hour. The game kicked my ass. I am not gonna lie. For a while, anyway. When I first played it, it took me like 8 hours just to get out of is it Mysidia? I don't think it's Mysidia, is it? I can't remember. It's been a while since I actually played the game, but actually I've got the what do you call it? The Wikipedia page get up. I'll just check it 1 second. It's not saying, but you know what I mean. The first big city of the game that you're in, and Midgar. That was it, Midgar. What is Mysidia? Oh, that's from Final Fantasy 1, isn't it? But yeah, when you're in Midgar, it took me 8 hours to get out of there simply because I didn't know what I was supposed to do, and I do admit I kind of got stuck at one point. Kind of my fault, but the game didn't annoy me even with that fact that I was stuck for such a long time. It was how do I put this? I don't really know. I don't know how to put it. Everything just felt right about the game. The story, the characters. The minute I booted it up, I knew I was going to enjoy this to an extent. I just didn't know what extent I was going to enjoy it to. But what should I talk about? I'll keep talking about the gameplay for now. The gameplay works very similar to most other Final Fantasy games that have an active battle system. You attack your enemy. In this game, you can actually attack from both sides. This isn't new by any stretch of the imagination, but it's not in all that is not a feature in all Final Fantasy games. One thing I do kind of like is the materia. The materia basically works very much as your magic in this game. You can level up materia, and if you can master a materia, you actually get a new materia of that. So if you've got one fire materia, if you can get that up to master level, you will get basically a new fire materia. This works for everything that could be classified as magic in this game, whether it's simple spells like fire, thunder, and all that stuff, healing, so on and so forth. It also works for things like I don't think there's like an encounter half or anything like that, but like block and I can't remember the name of it. Reversal, where you'll get attacked and you'll immediately attack back even though it's not your turn. I can't remember the name of it. And then you have it for the summons as well, which is obviously another Final Fantasy staple. The normal ones like Shiva and what's his name, Ifrit, and all that stuff. You can get those materials and they can be leveled up, but I don't think you can actually get multiple materia when it comes to those, because even if you get those to master, I don't think that you get another materia for those. And these are all laid out in certain things, like normal materia is green, and I think like stat helps are yellow, and summons are red, and there's a couple other colors I believe. It's been a while since I played the game, and this works. In fact, I really didn't mind this. I'd still probably prefer basically just giving magic and summons and stuff to mages, but with the way this world works and the story that it plays around, I don't mind it too much. But again, I would have rather just had the mage uses magic and the warrior fights with a sword and all that stuff. But yeah, this is by far the best non-traditional magic system that I've played so far. I've not played many. I think, like I said, I've only played Final Fantasy 8, which I can't stand the magic system in that, but I'll get to that when I get to that. But yeah, that's how the game works in essence. Obviously some of the materia you have to go out your way to get. So one in particular that I'll talk about later is one pain in the ass to get. simply because of how time consuming it is. Um, but the story is. I'm not going to go too in depth in the story. Most of you know the story behind Final Fantasy VII. But in my honest opinion, I enjoyed the story. It was good for what it was. There were a few aspects I could have done without, but um, overall, I actually really, really enjoyed the story. I thought it was a very traditional kind of Final Fantasy type story, but I will say I think this was the genesis of where, well, the birth, I suppose you could say, of Square or SquareSoft or Square Enix now, was trying to be too convoluted with the story as a whole. You know, I've not played all Final Fantasies. At this point, as I said before, I own like 8 of the original 9, but I've only actually played through 4 of them so far, and that being 1, 2, 4, and 7. So, but yeah, I did notice that they try to be way too convoluted with the story. It doesn't really work in the story's favor. If they just simplified it a little bit more, it wouldn't have been too bad. But then again, as I said, this is far from being the biggest what's the word I'm looking for? Not the biggest suspect, the biggest. Well, you know what I mean. It's not the one that's done it the most. You know, this is not Final Fantasy 13. You know, this is not as convoluted as that crap. All right, it's no way. It's not even on the same radar, or even in the same league or whatever. It's not that bad. Um, so you know, if you can sort of forgive it and see it on a more simple, because you can look at it from a more simplified basis, but you know, only thing I can say is that Final Fantasy VII story is good. Yeah, I would actually put in great, actually, but not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. A little bit too jarring in places, a few things that didn't need to be there. But overall, it was a good ride from beginning to end, and I enjoyed it immensely. And I'm to switch into the next section of this little impressions review, whatever. Part of the reason the story is so good is because of the characters. Now, coming into Final Fantasy VII, you know, a lot of people were going on about how Cloud was this angsty guy, you know, really cold and not uncaring, cold and I don't know, angst is all I can say. And I didn't get that. I mean, you get that a little bit throughout the entire story, but you get more of a cocky, confident character than anything else. So, you know, you can see actually holds quite a bit of affection for certain characters in the game. You know, I didn't get pure angsty out of Cloud in this game. I got a little bit at times, like I said, when you find out, and obviously there'll be spoiler alerts here because I will be speaking about the story while I'm talking about the characters. But when Cloud thinks he's just another clone and all that stuff, obviously that sets him off, and he goes all angsty there. And excuse me, I knocked my mic. And he goes like that, and you can understand that to an extent. But then, you know, you see throughout the story, and I didn't get this big downer on Cloud. I mean, I've not seen any of the extended universe of Final Fantasy VII at all. I've not watched the movies. I've not played any of the side games or whatever. My experience with FF7's universe is purely the Final Fantasy VII game. So if Cloud's different, yeah, I've not even played Kingdom Hearts, which I do get more of a angsty loner character in that. Even though I've never actually played the game, but I've actually obviously seen an LP of it. So, but Final Fantasy VII, I don't get it. I don't see this character that becomes different in other games. I don't see the character that everyone talks about. I see actually fairly decent hero, not the best one in Final Fantasy history, but I actually do enjoy his character for what it is. next I'm going to talk about two characters, uh, Eris and Tifa. The reason I'm going to talk about these two is because these two are considered primarily the two main love interests of the story. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I am a shipper at heart. There is always a ship that if you don't know what a shipper means, it means someone who likes a certain couple in any form of media, whether it be films, books, comics, video games, whatever. And I can't help it. It's just the way I am. I'm not gonna go into a big thing of what I am. I might do a list on like my top 10 favorites or something in the future, but I won't lie. Coming into this, I was well aware of the fact that Eris dies. As I said, hundreds of lists out there of the most sad moments in Final Fantasy, sad moments in video games and stuff, and Eris's death always becomes the major, quite high on those lists. So I was expecting that. So I was gonna. During my first playthrough, when I discovered that you can actually choose who you want to essentially get that date with through the relationship points, which is another little factor, but it's not really interesting, so I'm not going into it. I decided to just forget about Eris because I knew what her eventual fate would be. So, Eris is a character. I will admit she wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting this really shy, withdrawn character for some reason. She just had that design about her, but I was actually pleasantly surprised to see that she wasn't that way. In fact, she was very fun-loving, I got very blunt out of her, you know. Well, not blunt, but what's the word I'm looking for? Well, blunt will do, but yeah, I should probably have a fucking dictionary or a thesaurus or something next to me. I enjoyed her character while she was there. You know, I actually, although I didn't go for her in the romance section of the game, I must admit I was quite down by her death. And hope she, you know, even though I knew that you can't save the character, you know, I really wish you could. You know, she was a good character, and I was a little bit sad to see her be killed off. But you know, there's not really a whole lot you can do about it. Honestly, for the game, I didn't find her too useful though. I tended not to use magic very often. I was always either forceful, not forceful, mostly attacking or summons. That was basically my style of gameplay. And that actually goes over to Final Fantasy as well. I'm either going straight for the I'm either going straight for the kill with blow after blow, or I'm using summons. That's just how I work. That's just how I work in basically post Final Fantasy VI games. So, but yeah, Eris is a character in terms of the story. I liked her. She was good. She was fun. She was, you know, just well written. I found it was. It was a shame to see her go. In terms of gameplay, I didn't get much out of her, but I probably wasn't using her correctly. Like as I said before, first time I played the game was about a year ago. I am not by any stretch of the imagination a Final Fantasy VII veteran. I don't know what characters would be best for what for certain materia. I don't know their best stats and stuff off by heart and all that. So, you know, I basically went on my style of gameplay, and I'll work around it with the characters I can. The one thing I didn't particularly care for much though when it came to Eris, and this isn't really the character, but it was the love story between, well, the so-called romance between her and Cloud. You know, it wasn't bad. I'm going to say that right off the bat here. When it comes to canon pairings, and again, if you're wondering what canon means, it means what actually happens in the media in question, and what is considered the true canon. It wasn't the worst by any stretch of the imagination, the worst canon romance I've ever seen. Far from it. But the problem was it was outshined by Cloud's relationship with Tifa, which I'll get into now because I'm going to do her characters. Tifa, was actually what I figured Eris would be in terms of a character. She's shy. She's not withdrawn, but she's she's I can't put it. She's shy and she's rather uh, she's a would the correct term be an introvert? She tends to keep her thoughts and feelings to herself for the most part. I might be going about that wrong. But Tifa is also the one of the hard hitters of the group, which is a good thing. Which is a good thing because the only other one I can think of really is Cloud. I might be wrong about that though. Tifa and Cloud basically knew each other as children, all that stuff. Her story is actually a really good one. As I said, she knew Cloud when they were kids. They kind of grew up together. But they weren't really friends. I don't know how to put this. Essentially, they were more than acquaintances, but less than friends, I think. And when Cloud goes off to join Soldier, the two of them have a talk and stuff. I think it's implied that Cloud has a crush on her when he's younger, and that might be the same for her with him, but I'm not entirely sure. I've not really delved into that much of the story of Seven. But yeah, eventually she finds him one day at the train station and asks him to help out with Avalanche, which is the group that she's a part of that's trying to take down the bad guys, for lack of a better word. And I don't know, there's one scene I do actually like, when Sephiroth, the bad guy, obviously, kills her father. She basically gets his sword and basically tries to attack. And I don't know, I just love that scene where she's trying to sneak up behind him and then basically nearly gets herself killed. I don't know why I like that. I just like the fact that she's so pissed off that she'll swing the sword at the practically godlike monster. And there's another scene where Cloud eventually, towards the end, about 2/3 of the way through the game, becomes, I think he's comatose or something like that, and she decides to leave the group to take care of him. And I don't know, I just felt that she had some really good scenes, so much so that she actually, in my honest opinion, managed to outshine Aerith, who was supposed to be the main female of this entire game. So yeah, I love Tifa's character. I thought, for two reasons, and no, I don't mean that. Dirty bastards. No, I like her because of her game. For one, I like the fact that she's a hard hitter, one of the hard hitters in the group, so I like to keep her as one of my main three. And two, I love her story and interaction with Cloud and the others. I think it's probably the best one. She's probably got the best story and interactivity out of the entire group. So yeah, you can probably guess which ship I belong to with that. Another next character I'm going to talk about is Barrett. Obviously, I think the first thing that came to my mind was Mr. T, with more muscles. Barrett, I have to admit, I started off not liking very much, but I kind of grew to like as a character as the time went on. I like the fact that he's basically the adoptive father of, and I can't remember the little girl's name. Damn it. It's been a while, guys. I can't remember her name, but he's essentially the adoptive father of a friend of his daughter. And you get to see this, basically this big burly man, like so sweet and gentle to this little girl, and you see moments where he's worried about his friends and whatnot, and after Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse die, he gets pissed off about that and stuff, and he's also a ranged fighter, which is something I like. You can get a couple of upgrades for his arm cannon, whatever, that will basically be close combat, but he's essentially more of a range fighter, and I don't really have much to say about Barrett. He's very outspoken, has a bit of a short fuse, but he has there's nothing wrong with his character whatsoever. Nothing really to speak much about, but there's literally nothing wrong with it. I can't think of a single thing that's bad about his character whatsoever. Next, I'm going to talk about who should I do next. I'll talk about Red 13 next, since he's the next one. I can't remember his true name. Is it Namanyaka or something like that? I don't remember. Honestly, quite forgettable in my honest opinion. He's essentially some kind of tiger, something or whatever. I can't remember. Has the ability to speak and all that. A fairly decent fighter, but not really one I use. His story, I don't find that interesting, to be honest. And to be honest, I haven't paid that much attention, so it's Red 13 is just one of the characters I do not care for, and another character I don't care for is Kate Sith. I know that's not how you pronounce his name, at least not according to the Japanese Japanese dictionary or whatever. But that's how I think everyone pronounces it, is Kate Sith. Is essentially someone in Shiva, in the Shiva Corporation, who is trying to help out Cloud and stuff. But I don't find him very useful. I hardly ever use the character. And again, I just don't find the character very interesting, so I tend not to pay much attention to him whatsoever. Another two more characters I'm not a big fan of, but more I'm sort of in the middle of. First, we'll go for Vincent. Vincent, I won't actually lie, I missed on my first two playthroughs because you don't actually have to recruit him. There are actually two characters. Actually, I'll do the ones you don't have to recruit first. First is Vincent. You can get him, it's about a third of the way through the game, maybe. No, less than that. But essentially, you actually have to go out of your way just a little bit to get him. Vincent is essentially, to be honest, I don't know, even to this day, I don't know his full story, because you actually have to work and find things to get his story, and it's something I haven't done. His character really doesn't say much. He doesn't interact much with the group whatsoever. And to be honest, at times I forget he's there. When I was actually talking earlier, I was thinking, oh shit, what's that last guy's name? Because he's that forgettable. He's not a bad character, it's just it's something that he's a character that's hard to like, because you have to go out your way for everything in regards to him. You have to go out your way to get him into the group. You have to go out your way to get any of his backstory. Well, any of it, really. Well, most of it. You get a little bit when you first meet him, but that's about it. And however, one thing I do like about Vincent is his gameplay style. Vincent can turn into certain creatures and certain monsters and stuff like that. Which is his limit break, by the way. And in case you want, I'll go into what limit breaks are later. I forgot to talk about those. It's just really cool. Vincent isn't a bad character to play as. He's just very boring, I guess you could say. The other character, and I'm going to the other one now because I can't think of anything else to say for Vincent. The other character you don't have to have join your party. At least I don't think you do, but I could be wrong. The other one, actually I think you do, but you can decide on whether you want to get her early or not, is Yuffie, or is it Yuffie? We'll just call it Yuffie. Yuffie is a ninja. She's another ranged attacker. I actually don't mind her character too much, though. She's very spunky, she's very she reminds me very much of Scrappy, doing that. She likes to fight, she's very she's a little bit manipulative. Well, she's more than a little bit. She's quite manipulative. She's quite cunning. I actually found her quite funny as well at times. Her character is essentially out to steal the group's materia, but essentially she asks for forgiveness and all that stuff, and joins the team for real next time. I like her character. I don't think it's I don't think her character's bad in any way, shape or form. She's fun, she's interesting. Her gameplay is pretty good as well. I actually didn't mind playing hers. Playing as, excuse me. Excuse me. I actually didn't mind playing as her, and you know, Yuffie is actually one of those you can actually get a date with as well, but I think you actually have to go out your way to get her. There's only one person that's harder to get than her, and it's Barrett, who you can actually get on the date, I believe, but it's extremely difficult to get the date with him. Personally, I've never done it for either Yuffie or Barrett, but there it is. Yuffie, good character. You probably know her better from things like, you've probably seen her character in Kingdom Hearts and stuff like that, so you know a little bit of what she's all about and stuff. She's outspoken, all that stuff. She's a cool character, that's all I have to say. I believe we're now on our last member of the team, which is Sid. Sid, I'm a little bit in two minds about, I'm not gonna lie. On the one hand, he basically doesn't give a shit what he says. He has one dream, and that's to go into space and all that stuff. He's uses the lance as his choice of weapon. He's not actually bad to play with at all. He doesn't do the most damage from what I can tell, but he's not too bad. The only problem I really have is that he's often considered a wife beater, which kind of puts me off the character, if I'm being perfectly honest here. He's... how do I put this? He's very... I don't know. I like Sid because of some of the things he says and does. His interaction with the group is not bad at all, but then you have him do certain things and he just becomes hard to like. I'll be honest, Sid's one of those characters I just can't make my mind upon. On the one hand, he's fun to use. On the other hand, his personality leaves a lot to be desired, if I'm being perfectly honest. Alright, that's it for the characters. Obviously, there's the bad guys and stuff. Sephiroth is a good bad guy. Shiva is a good corporate bad guy. And all. Shiva, the company, is a good corporate bad guy and all that stuff. But, they're not playable characters, so I won't go into depth on them. All I will say is that they're good bad guys. They're the kind of characters you want to destroy and see the end of. I forgot to talk about the limit breaks, so I'll just go into those real quick. The limit breaks are essentially what happens after you take a certain amount of damage after so much time. The characters will be able to use a much more powerful attack. You can get different ones by leveling up and doing certain other things while you're battling. As I said, Vincent turns into an animal. Cloud has a few special sword attacks and stuff like that. Aeris, from what I can remember, can use stronger healing magic, and Barrett and stuff like that use guns. Uses more powerful explosions. Tifa has the weirdest fucking limit break though. Hers is a slot reel, which will determine how many hits she can do. All the attacks will do more than the normal hit, but it's really weird. If you've never seen it, go check out Tifa's limit break. It's just weird how it works, at least how it works. In terms of other things to do, there is side quests. Well, not so much side quests, but side things to do in the game. You obviously can go materia hunting. As I said, there are plenty that you're going to have to go out your way to get. But there are a few things to do. You can eventually go to the to a certain, I think is it called the gold choke? No, not the gold chocobo. Oh crap! I can't remember the name of the place. The gold sphere or something like that. I need to get back onto the Wikipedia page. Damn it! This is why I should take notes before I do these damn things. The gold saucer. That's it. The gold saucer has you'll go to about, yeah, about a third of the way through the game. You get a bunch of stuff. You can do a few mini games. Um, but the reason you really want to go there is for the chocobo racing. Now, you can either just bet on the chocobo racing, or you can actually take part. Now, to take part, you need to go to the Chocobo Ranch, which will be probably the first place you go after you leave Midgar for the first time, pretty early on in the game. And you can essentially catch and raise and breed chocobos. Now, this is essential to get a certain materia. Chocobo racing is pretty fun. You don't control the chocobo, not really. You just control his stamina and how fast he can go and all stuff like that. You can get things to improve your chocobo's overall speed, stamina, and all that stuff. I can't remember what they're called. Seeds or something like that. There's something like that anyway. But your main focus here is that you can get quite a few prizes and stuff from doing chocobo racing, or even just betting on the chocobo racing. But the reason you want to do this is because you need to get a gold chocobo, which is the hardest one to get. You get this through breeding, and then breeding again, and then I think you have to breed maybe a third and maybe even a fourth time with certain different colored chocobos. And you have to go out and catch certain ones, and it's really, really difficult. You know, this is probably the most... There's a certain materia that I had to get. Right, let me start again. I got to the end of the game. Well, I got to the final boss the first time. I had a little effort getting there. Like I said, I had a few deaths and whatnot along the way. But for a playthrough, I actually didn't feel it went too bad. I got to the final boss, which, spoiler alert, well, I don't think I'm spoiling anything here, is Sephiroth. I got my ass handed to me. I got there a second time with better stats, nearly maxed out stats actually. Got my ass handed to me. I got there the third time with this materia. I still got beat, even though it was a bit closer. So the fourth time I actually had to max out the said materia, and I'll go more into this in a second. There's a materia in the game called Knights of the Round, which is essentially, obviously, the Knights of the Round Table. This can hit for over 100,000 damage. No joke. I think Sephiroth has something like 1,400,000 HP. So you're talking taking out nearly 3/4. Is it 3/4? No, not quite. I don't know. Try to do the basic math in my head. No, it's you're talking almost 3/4 of the guy's HP right there. In fact, it is more than 3/4 of the guy's HP right there, just by getting Knights of the Round maxed out. So 2 of those and the guy is dead. The problem is getting the Knights of the Round materia is the fucking hardest and most time consuming, well, not the hardest, but the most time consuming thing I've ever done in any RPG. And I consider that freaking level grinding in Pokemon, or going for a certain Pokemon. Getting the Knights of the Round requires you to A, have a lot of freaking time on your hands, 2, a lot of patience, and 3, a freaking guide. You have to breed, you have to capture 2 types of chocobos, normal chocobos that you can find running around the wilds. Now, these can't just be any chocobos. No, I think one has to be a great chocobo and another one has to be a good chocobo. But there are only certain places you can get that, so you have to wait until a certain point in the game where you've got access to get to these places in the world. And then you gotta breed those 2 after they've won a couple races each. I think you have to get them both up to either A or S rank. And then you get something like a blue and a green chocobo, and you breed those 2 fuckers. And then it goes to I believe it's a red and a black chocobo. You have to breed those 2, and eventually you'll get a gold chocobo. Now, this may sound easy, but it's not. This will take you at the very least 5 hours. I am not joking. Unless you are amazing at this game, that you can do all this, you know where the chocobos are, no, you know what, even knowing all that, this is the most time consuming thing in the game. 5 hours, I think, is going to be your least amount of time to get this. It might even be more. I think it took me like 6, maybe even 7 hours before I got the gold chocobo. And then when you get the gold chocobo, pretty much the entire world is open to you. You can run on water, you can run on mountains and stuff like that. Getting the gold chocobo is basically full access to all areas in the game. There's one island where there's no way you can get onto without a gold chocobo. No other chocobo can land on it or get to it. You have to have the gold one. And what's on that island? Why, the Knights of the Round Materia. What else? This was the only... I don't even want to call this a downer, because as soon as I got the Knights of the Round, I was actually really happy. And it's one of those things where you get an accomplishment in gaming where you're actually pleased with yourself. But once you get that, the game is essentially yours, you know. You're going to have no problems whatsoever. Assuming you level that materia up, though, because I'm not going to lie, I got my ass handed to me. But yeah, I've pretty much talked about the entirety of the game now. And yeah, in case you're wondering, Knights of the Round is my favourite materia simply because it's based on the Knights of the Round Table, a lore that I actually enjoy learning and talking about. I'm just going to take a quick drink of my water because my mouth's going a little bit dry. But yeah, a few other things I'll talk about. Obviously, the music, it's really good. I won't lie, when I play video games, because as I said, I play this on my PSP. When I'm playing games on my PSP or my DS or whatever, I tend not to have the music on. I'm usually playing it silent. I'm obviously still reading the text and stuff, but in terms of the music, I don't get to hear it. But as I said, I have heard the music from it, bits and pieces. I like everything that I've heard. The story was very enjoyable, problematic at times because of how again, I keep using convoluted, but I can't think of a different word to use for it. It was all over the place at times, trying too desperately to put too much in, but other than that, it was okay. The characters more hits than misses. You know, only 2 characters I didn't particularly care for. One I'm not really sure about. The others, which is, I think, is it 5? We've got Cloud, Tifa, Eris, Barrett, Yuffie, Vincent, Kate Sith, and Red 13. No, so there's 8 characters. Out of those 8, you got 5 that I like. So, you know, there's really nothing. 5 that I like. And, well, sort of like Vincent. 2 I'm not so sure about. So 4 that I like, 2 that I'm more meh about, and 2 that I'm not really interested in at all. So again, more hits than misses, really. The graphics, obviously, I would love to see this game with better graphics. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. Nothing you can really do about it, but you know, again, it's not even the backgrounds or whatever. The in-battle cuts. Graphics are actually pretty nice. It's just the overworld graphics that look atrocious. They look like freaking polygons. All the characters look weird. There are a couple of mods out there that I believe fix that for the PC version, but obviously I don't have the PC version, so I can't download that. Overall, I guess, coming into Final Fantasy VII, I was not expecting it to hold up as well as it did. But, you know, remember, this is nearly 16 years, so actually 15 and a half years after its initial release that I finally got around to playing Final Fantasy VII. And I still think it holds up to this day. If you are a graphics whore, you're not going to like it, simply because of how the game looks. But, you know, if you can look past graphics, you know, there's a lot to like here. There's a lot that I fell in love with, you know, the characters. I may not have experienced much of, anything of the extended universe yet, so I didn't really get to see anything in terms of that. I just don't know. I am happy I got to finally play this last year, and I'm glad I own it. At least even if it's only a downloaded version. But I kind of wish I would have played this back in the day. Again, this is like what happened with Mega Man X. I found a game that I absolutely, undeniably fell in love with that game. Final Fantasy VII was the same for me. You know, it made me excited to play Final Fantasy 8 and 9, and it made me realize why people go on about it. I mean, there are plenty of people out there that don't like 7 and will swear on their family's lives that 8 is better, or 9, or 6, or 4, or whatever. I will say at this point in time, Final Fantasy VII has brought me more enjoyment than any of the other Final Fantasy games. Would I say it's the best one I've played so far? Bearing in mind, I've only completed 3 others, and I've only done about 3/4 of 8. Actually, yeah, I would say Final Fantasy VII is my favorite Final Fantasy game as of this time. Will this be the same when I play 9? I can't say. Like I say, I own 5 and 6. 5, unfortunately, is I do own for the Game Boy Advance. Unfortunately, this freaking thing doesn't save anymore, so I can't exactly play it properly. 6 does, but at the moment, I'm still playing through 8. As soon as I've done that, I'll go back to 6. Or I might do 9 afterwards. I'm not sure which one I'll do next. I don't really know what else to say, guys. You know, if you've never ever experienced Final Fantasy VII for whatever reason, like myself, I would definitely recommend giving it a try. Play it for about 2 hours. If you can't, actually, don't play it for 2 hours. Play for however long it takes for you to get out of Midgar. After that, play for another hour. If you cannot get into the game, you're not going to enjoy it. I personally think it's a fantastic game. One I am really glad I finally got around to playing. And one I can't wait to do an LP of one day. And yes, I will be going for Knights of the Round. Because I can't beat Sephiroth otherwise. The guy's too freaking hard for me. All I can say is, I love this game. There's no other way to put it. If I was going to make a top 10 list of video games, I don't know if this would go on the top 10, but I definitely have to make it a contender for the top 10 somewhere. It's just too enjoyable for me. As I said, the only things I wish were different were, I wish the graphics weren't so blocky, and I wish this had been more turn-based instead of active. I wish this had been a turn-based battle system instead of a active battle system. But other than that, I can't think of anything more to say, to be perfectly honest, guys. You never played it? Go play it. You know, there are plenty of means out there to get it. It's fairly cheap on the PlayStation Network. When I got it, I think it was £7. It might be less now. If you got Steam, it's probably on there as well. You know, hell, you could probably find a used copy if you've got a PlayStation 1, although, to be honest, I would recommend getting it another way. The chances are those discs for PS1 are scratched to hell nowadays. You can also get a physical copy of it for the PC as well, so if you don't want to get it for the PlayStation, you can get it that way as well. But yeah, a 15-year-old RPG, and I think it's one of the best RPGs I've ever played. That's quite impressive. But I think for now this will be the last impressions review video I do for a while. The next one will probably be when I finally complete Final Fantasy VIII, but that is probably a while off because I'm just not really in the mood to play it right now. I've got real life things going on and stuff at the moment. I've actually got a LP I've got to finish up as well. But yeah, Final Fantasy VII. I gave Super Metroid a score, so I'll probably do the same for this. Final Fantasy VII, I will give out of a 10, I will give a 9.1. Not perfect, but a great game. if I ever watch or play any of the extended universe of this game, I'll probably give my thoughts and opinions on that. But as I said, for the time being, I haven't experienced any of it, so I can't really speak. As I said at the beginning of this, which is freaking wow, I've been talking for 50 minutes. When I first started this, I obviously said Cloud is known as a very angsty, very withdrawn character and all that. This is not something I got out of Final Fantasy VII. I'm guessing this is the extended universe. But yeah, I'm not sure when the next video of this will be. The next Captain's Log. I might do maybe finally do a top 10 or something like that. But the next review impressions video, first impressions video at that as well, would be Final Fantasy VIII. The only reason I'm doing this one is because it's still fresh enough in my mind what my feelings and opinion was when I first completed and played the game. If I'd have less of this another year or so, I probably wouldn't have bothered. But it's been 1 year since I played it. It's been about 8 months since I completed it, so it's still just fresh enough. But I've been rambling on long enough now, guys. My mouth's starting to get even more dry. You guys are probably bored to death listening to me. So, with that, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Good night and take care.